She thought it was just a small act of kindness. But what happened next stunned the whole restaurant. The moment she placed the plate on the table, the room seemed to pause, as if fate itself had leaned in to watch. One small act, unnoticed by most, was about to unravel secrets buried for years and change lives forever. No one in that quiet corner of the restaurant could have imagined that kindness, offered without expectation, would return with a force so powerful it would leave everyone shaken. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the idea that even the smallest good deed can change a life, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to the channel for more real, heart-touching stories like this one. Her name was Ariba, and on that evening, she was exhausted in a way sleep could not fix. Life had pressed her down slowly, year by year, until she had learned to carry disappointment as quietly as a shadow. She worked 2 jobs, one during the day at a small office where she was mostly invisible, and another in the evenings as a waitress at a modest family restaurant near the bus station. Dreams she once carried with fire in her chest had been folded and tucked away, replaced by bills, responsibilities, and a deep fear of hoping for more. Yet despite everything, there was something she refused to let the world take from her: her ability to care. The restaurant was half full that night. The air smelled of warm bread, spices, and tired conversations. Families laughed softly. Couples sat in silence scrolling through their phones, and a few lonely souls ate meals meant for 2. Ariba moved from table to table, her steps practiced, her smile gentle but worn. That was when she noticed him, a man sitting alone at a corner table, untouched food growing cold in front of him. His clothes were clean but old, his posture heavy, as if every bone in his body carried a story too painful to tell. He wasn't scrolling, wasn't eating, wasn't even looking around. His eyes were fixed on nothing, and yet everything. At first, she did what she always did. She passed by. It wasn't her place to interfere. People came to restaurants with their own burdens, and she had learned not to pry. But something tugged at her, a quiet unease she couldn't shake. She noticed his hands trembling slightly, noticed how he kept glancing at the exit as if deciding whether to disappear. When she came to clear nearby tables, she realized his plate hadn't been touched at all. Time passed, other customers left. Still he sat there, alone with his silence. Ariba knew struggle intimately. She recognized it in the way he carried himself, in the way shame sat on his shoulders like an invisible weight. Memories surfaced of her own lowest days, when she had skipped meals so her younger brother could eat, when strangers' indifference hurt more than hunger itself. Without thinking too much, she made a decision. A simple one. She refilled his water, adjusted the plate slightly, and added a small extra item from the kitchen, something warm and comforting. She did not announce it. She did not ask questions. She simply helped. That small gesture cracked something open. The man looked up, startled, confusion flashing across his face. He scanned the room, as if trying to understand why anyone would do something for him without being asked. Ariba walked away, her heart pounding harder than it should have. She told herself it was nothing, just food, just kindness. But deep down she felt that familiar ache, the one that came from caring too much in a world that often punished it. The night grew quieter. Rain began to tap against the windows, soft at first, then heavier, blurring the lights outside. When Ariba passed by again, she noticed the plate was finally empty. The man was sitting straighter now, though his eyes were glossy, his jaw tight. He hadn't left. Instead, he waited. When she brought the bill, she noticed his hands shaking more visibly. He stared at the paper far longer than necessary. That was when the truth revealed itself without words. He didn't have enough money. Ariba felt her chest tighten. She knew that look. The calculation, the panic, the humiliation of realizing you cannot pay for something you needed just to feel human again. She should have called the manager. That was the rule. But rules felt meaningless in the face of someone silently falling apart. Without drawing attention, she made another choice. She told the manager she would cover it. It meant sacrificing her own dinner that night. It meant going home hungry. But it also meant protecting someone's dignity, and to her, that was worth more than food. What Ariba didn't know was that several people had been watching. A couple near the window. an elderly woman sipping tea, even the cashier who paused mid-motion, sensing something unusual unfolding. The man finally stood, his movements slow, deliberate. He looked around, eyes lingering on faces that avoided his gaze, then back to Ariba. His expression shifted, from shame to disbelief, then to something raw and unguarded. Tears filled his eyes, and though no words were spoken, the room felt heavier, charged with emotion. He didn't leave immediately. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out a folded photograph. He held it close to his chest for a moment, then carefully placed it on the table. Ariba noticed it later while cleaning up. It showed a younger man in a graduation gown smiling brightly beside an older couple. On the back, a name and date were written. This man, she realized, had once had dreams too. A life, a future that had somehow unraveled. As the rain outside turned into a storm, the atmosphere inside the restaurant shifted. The man walked toward the door, paused, then turned back briefly. He bowed his head slightly, a gesture heavy with gratitude, before stepping into the night. Something about the way he left felt final, as if he had been standing on the edge of something far darker and had just been pulled back. The next morning, the story did not end. Ariba woke to messages from coworkers, confused and urgent. News had spread quickly. The man she helped was found alive at a nearby shelter, having turned himself in for help instead of giving up completely. But that wasn't the shock. The shock was who he was. He had once been a respected teacher, a mentor to hundreds, until a series of personal tragedies, false accusations, and untreated grief had stripped everything away. His life had collapsed quietly, leaving him invisible to the world. What stunned everyone was what came next. Former students recognized him from a photo shared online by someone who had been in the restaurant. Stories poured in, testimonies of lives changed, opportunities given, kindness remembered. Within days, support flooded in. Legal help, counseling, job offers, all sparked by one small act of compassion from a tired waitress who didn't think twice. Ariba stood at the edge of it all, overwhelmed. She hadn't helped to be seen. She hadn't helped to start a movement. She helped because she knew what it felt like to be unseen. When reporters asked her why she did it, she struggled to explain. There were no grand words, no dramatic reasons. Just the simple truth that sometimes when you see someone drowning, you reach out your hand. Her own life didn't magically become perfect. Bills still waited. Work was still hard. But something inside her changed. Hope, once buried, stirred again. She realized that even in her smallest moments, she had power. The power to remind someone they mattered. And in doing so, she had reminded herself too. If this story is touching your heart even a little, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps keep stories like this alive and reaching those who need them most. Before this story ends, I want to ask you something special. Please comment below one word that represents what kindness means to you. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. Weeks later, Ariba returned to the same restaurant, the same corner table still standing quietly where it always had. Life moved on, but the echo of that night remained. She understood now that kindness doesn't always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it slips into a moment, unnoticed, and waits patiently to bloom. And when it does, it can shock the world. If this story moved you, if it made you feel, remember this. You never know who is sitting quietly near you, fighting a battle in silence. One small act can be the reason someone chooses to keep going, and that is a power greater than we often realize.